welcome to the Roy Rogers News Channel with your host, Roy Rogers. Um, anyway, today we have Cody here. He's gonna be talking on the pro breeding side, and then we'll have someone that's against the breeding system. And I figured that with the interview, I would do the interview separately to prevent fighting and all that stuff. So that way we can provide a fair and balanced debate. So, uh, Cody, would you like to say hello?
Uh,
Yeah. So I want to ask you um, one question about the breeding about the new breeding system. So one I mean to some people are thinking about um this whole um like take two parents away for an egg. Um, how do you feel on that?
I feel like the people who complain about the 2-for-1 um deal need to stop looking at breeding as a way to copy your Pokemon and look more look at breeding as more of a way to refine Pokemon. Yes, you're giving up two parents for one parent or for one Pokemon, but if you're doing it right, then you're going to be getting a much better product at the end than it there was than what you put in. Um, Basically, the way it was before is that you could get a better product or you could get a worse product. You just put two parents in, you can get better, you can get worse product, and just you kept doing it over and over and over again until you got the desired product. The way it is now is that if you plan out your breeding chains and get the Pokemon corresponding to that plan, you can get a pretty much guaranteed product of what you're looking for at the end of that chain. Now, there are some variables such as gender and um, abilities that may affect certain Pokemon, and also genderless Pokemon less able to be bred that way. But in general, that's the way the breeding now works, and people need to stop looking at it as any other way.
All right, and um, IVs. As far as IVs are concerned, you can transfer three IVs from one parent and three IVs from the other parent, and and then it'll be um, like you'll have the three selected IVs from two parents, and you get the offspring. But the question is,
Well,
um,
I'm gonna stop you right there, because you got the mechanics wrong. You can choose one IV from each parent, assuming you put a brace on both of those parents, and then two other IVs are randomly selected from each, or one to two other IVs. Okay, let me start over. Three IVs are inherited all the time. It's not three IVs for each parent, it's just three IVs. And the IVs can be inherited from any parent unless you put a brace onto one of those parents. And when you put that brace on the parent, you can choose an IV to pass from that parent. Then if you put a brace on that other parent, then you could choose an IV from that parent to pass, and that leaves one random IV that gets passed. Um, that's the way the mechanic works. Not three IVs from each parent gets passed. The IVs that don't get passed are all averaged.
all right, and I want to also ask you about um, the economy. Now on your forums conversations, I noticed that you've been talking about neutralizing the economy and some. I mean, what's so important about having a good economy in an MMO?
Well, an MMO is it, it's it's like it's like a virtual reality almost, I guess. And an MMO has got to appeal to many different people. There are the competitive types that probably don't care about the economy. too much, and then there are people who just want to go. If you have a poor economy, then you're not going to appeal to the people that want to become rich. There are shiny traders on here that become rich in that way, but it's not it's not it's just it's not the same as money. Without a balanced economy, just depending on which way it's misbalanced. If you have Okay, for example, let's take the breeding system that we used to have. That the whole the whole economy based around buying and selling comps was misbalanced in a sense that um, competitive Pokemon and godly Pokemon were becoming extremely overinflated and undervalued, which made people made people not even really need the way the breeding system was. It made people not even really need to use a trading system to get a good Pokemon. The way it was, I know many times I've thought about getting it. I need X Pokemon, and then I would think about buying it, but then I'm like, why would I waste my money? I can just ask so and so for his breeders and get a good competitive Pokemon that way. And that pretty much stuff like that pretty much killed the market. The fact that there was no desire to buy made the prices drop, and also the fact that everyone had godly and competitive Pokemon and had multiple of them on the market also dropped the price, and it just made breeding for anything but yourself not worth it. It pretty much took a huge aspect of the game, a whole nother thing that you could be doing besides competitive battling, and tore it to shreds, in my opinion.
All right, and
Ba- basic, Basically, the economy is another aspect of the game that makes the game interesting, and without it, the game becomes less interesting. Of course, those who just want to comp, the game isn't going to become less interesting, but to a lot of people, it does become people like Dano and Emily who or for among other reasons, but their main complaint is that breeding was too easy to get comps, and I'm sure the economy, the way what happened to the economy, had a lot to do with why they now don't quote me on this because I've never actually talked to them about it, but had a lot to do with why they quit.
all right, and the economy. I mean, I mean to me, I mean it's uh I mean I personally I can't relate with this because I'm kind of here for two reasons. One is because of the competitive scene, and two is because of YouTube. So yeah, I can't really relate with the economy that well, but
Well, you started an EV training service, correct?
yes.
Okay, could you imagine EV training services are not a very good way to make money. I know because I've tried one, and I'm sure you probably did better than me just because you're more willing to put in the time to grind. But just imagine if there was a better way to make money, or at least more ways to make money. Don't you think that that would be a good thing to have in a multiplayer game?
Um, yeah, I mean, I kind of EV train as a hobby, but I saw one of Q's posts, and he said that he was wanting to make EV training easy, which is going to defeat my economy. So,
Well, yeah, and you're also trying to make a buck, right? You're not
yeah,
doing it just for fun.
yeah,
So, I mean, okay, and that's good for you, but not everyone wants to do EV training services. I know that when money was first implemented, I was really excited because I was doing a lot of trading back in Bike MMO days, but I was trading for things like TMs and such, and it was really hard to put a value on Pokemon by having a barter system. And I was really excited because I thought that I would actually be able to make money. but then they implemented the flag system along with money, and that totally killed the economy. And I saw it coming when they first implemented it. I saw it coming, and it's just, it killed any drive that I had to try to make money through breeding. And just, okay, you know how people always say competitive battle is the end game? Well, that may be true, but that shouldn't be true. Competitive battle is great for the end game, but it shouldn't be the only aspect of the end game. You know what I'm saying?
So in other words, work hard for your competitive Pokemon.
Well, not really. I'm just saying that balance is important, and without an economy, you're limiting your player base to without a balanced economy, you're limiting your player base in the choices they have to do as to what to do in the game.
All right. Um. All right. I want to ask. I want to ask this question though. I mean, you say something about the economy, but um, how about how are how are the new people like my YouTube channel is full of people that want to just get into comp, and they and this new breeding system may be like, whoa. How what do you tell these new people that are just getting used to the competitive scene?
Um, the new people, this breeding system, in my opinion, overall is probably worse for newbies. Because back in the day, you were able to just say join a team, say, hey, can I borrow some breeders, throw the breeders in, and get a good comp Pokemon. But what this new breeder does do for newbies is first, it allows them to be more independent. They are now able to get their good comps without depending on older players loaning them breeders. And in my opinion, that's a good thing. Two, it allows them a source of cash from older players in the form of catching and selling breeder pokes. Um, because older players are still going to be breeding, and they're going to want breeder Pokemon of X egg group and X breeder Pokemon with X IV and Y stat, and people will be able to just go out, catch a Pokemon, and say, hey, this one's got this Tyranitar's got a 31 in speed. I'm not breeding any Tyranitars right now. Why don't I sell it and put it on the market? And I think that's going to be really good for new guys, because with the way the market's going to shift, it can still be sold. And I think that's a good thing, especially for new people. And another method they could, even if they're not breeding, even if they have trouble getting into breeding, they can make money by selling breeders and then buy their comps as soon as they get enough money. Now, comps are going to be extremely expensive, especially at first, in theory, anyways, especially at first, with the braces and such being such a high rate price. But yeah, they will be able to make money and buy their own comps if need be, but I do not see any reasons why they won't be able to breed their competitive pokes also.
All right, but here's the question. Here's the counter argument though. I mean, I've been catching Pokemon before, and till this day, I've never caught a 31 Pokemon. I always caught like a 20 something Pokemon, a 22, 24, 26, but never a 31. 31. I mean that's just me personally, but how do you how do you tell these people that they're not able to catch these 31s in the wild?
Well, see, you're wrong about. Well, first of all, you don't need 31s. The only stat that you really need, and there are a few exceptions to this, but there are few and they are very situational. But the only stat you really need 31 in is speed, and not all Pokemon need 31 speed. I have quite a few walls and such. I probably shouldn't be saying that on YouTube, but whatever. Um, but yeah, you don't need 31s. 25s plus will do you just fine, and I've made do with 20 many, many times, even in this world of godly comps. But anyways, you don't need 31s, but even still, it is possible to get 31s. There is a 1 in 32 chance, 1 out of 32 chance that your Pokemon will have a 31 in any given stat. So it is possible. And basically, you probably haven't gotten a 31 Pokemon from catching because you haven't grinded for 31 Pokemon, for Pokemon with 31 IVs yet. Even after the new old breeding system, I went grinding for a 31 speed Poliwhirl. I forgot what the reason was. I know that I was going to make him into a belly drum, a Poliwrath, for one reason or another. Um, and it did not take me long at all to find a 31 speed Poliwhirl. Now the other stats weren't that great, but it didn't take. But I got that 31 speed, and within this new breeding system, I will be able to pass that 31 speed to other Pokemon, just because I caught him before. But yeah, it's not a long grind to get a Pokemon with a 31, and it's even shorter grind if you go for 25s and above.
All right. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm just like I said, that's a personal concern of mine, but because um, I mean, it's just uh, and here's another concern of mine. I
Well,
like
actually, let me address one thing more in depth. You do not need 31s in all your stats. There are exceptions. Fred has proven one exception to me so far, and that is Blissey needs 31 defense and 31 HP in order to survive an extra double edge from Aerodactyl. It would be decently often, but how often are you going to be leaving your full HP Blissey and on an Aerodactyl? That's not. It's such a specific scenario that it's almost not worth getting 31s in defense and HP just for that one specific scenario. But if you do want to, by all means, you can just grind out, do the extra grind for that specific Pokemon for those 31s. But in most other scenarios, you do not need 31s. A lot of Pokemon can do with having a completely crappy attack or special attack just because they only need one of them. And so that means that's only 5 stats that you need to breed for. And many Pokemon can just do with 25s in all the important stats and do just as well as a 31 in all the important stats Pokemon does. And there is a 20% chance that a Pokemon will have, I think it was, no, it's 21% chance that a Pokemon will have a 25 or above stat in any given stat. So that's like every 4 Pokemon you catch should have a 25 somewhere. No, not every 4, every 4 point.
all right. I'm gonna um, do you need to move around your sprite? So sorry to interrupt our video there. Um, yeah. Uh, I also one last note for any of the uh I'm not sure what to call this, but in journalism you have nicknames. So for all the Lindsay players out there that enjoy that enjoy all the shinies, um, I'm sure you all are going to be enjoying what Cody's going to be talking about. So what do you think about the whole shiny breeding system?
I think that it's an attempt at a shiny sink, which in all honesty, the shiny market probably needs a shiny sink, but not as bad as the comp market does, simply because shinies are so rare anyways. that I think it would help, but it's a very slowly progressing problem, and that being inflation of shinies. It's just such a slow progressing problem that it's nearly unnoticeable. But you do notice it in certain shinies, such as Rada and the more common shinies, who have lost value over the time that I've been playing. Um, yeah, it's an attempt at the at a shiny sink, and people were speculating that it could um, lead way to more shinies in the competitive scene, which I am going to disagree with because even the common shinies aren't common enough to be able to chain breed a competitive shiny Pokemon the way that people are expecting to be able to. To me, the main use of this system will be if you just so happen to have or be buying a female rare shiny and you want it to be your OT, you can buy the female rare shiny and then you can buy a male common in the same egg group and breed them to have your OT on it. Uh, in my opinion, that defeats the purpose of having an OT because the way it was, having an OT meant that you just got really, really lucky while grinding one day and came across a shiny. But some people will probably enjoy that. Um, what it's speculating to do to the market is female rares will rise in value, which is probably true. Male rares might drop in value because they become less desired compared to the female counterparts, but I don't think that it's going to drop as much as people are speculating it to. Um, Male commons will rise in value, which is probably true, and female commons are speculated to drop in value, which is probably more true than the male rares. The female commons will probably drop in value at a much more substantial rate than the male rares will, because the way the whole thing that drove the shiny market was either trying to make a profit, in which case you're lowballing people to buy and trying to get every penny out of them when you sell, or you just want the shiny to show off. The people that want the shiny just to show off, unless they want an OT of that shiny, then they are going to still desire your male rare. So I don't see the value in that dropping all that substantially. Um, Now the people that are just buying to trade, it's not going to affect them too much because if you were able to lowball somebody for even either their male or female, rare or common, and if your whole game is lowballing and selling for higher, so you would still be able to do that. It's just that the numbers that you're using to lowball have changed. For example, let's say, and I'm not a shiny trader, so I'm going to be completely off on this number, but let's say shiny Zubat was worth 1 million. And let's say he was considered a semi-rare, which he's not, he's pretty common. But shiny Zubat worth 1 million. And actually, let's say he's a common, and you were trying to make a profit off of this guy that's selling a shiny Zubat. You're going to offer him 800k, and you're not going to pay any more than 800k because you're trying to make a profit. So let's say you will be able to, and then when you sell it, you're going to sell it for around what value, market value or above, because you're trying to make a profit. Now, after the system comes in, let's say Zubat's value raises to 1 million, 1.5 mil. You're going to buy it for 1.3 mil and try to sell it for 1.5. It doesn't change any for people who are trying to make a profit. You're still making the same profit, you're just using different numbers.
All right. Yeah. Um, and I barely even know about the tiers as far as shinies are concerned. I know about the competitive scene. I just don't know much about the shinies. So I'm so sorry if I'm going to be asking if I'm going to be asking novice questions, but I want to ask I hear about all these tiers and shinies. Are you familiar with shiny trading as far as tiers are concerned?
Oh no, I'm not a shiny trader at all. I could care less about shinies. I have my OTs, and that's all I really care about. I am trying to win a trophy shiny from a tournament one day, maybe, but I don't attend enough tournaments for that to actually be a possibility. Because the amount of tournaments I've attended within the last few months are zero. Well, I attended the one today, but did horrible in it. Anyways, yeah, I'm not a shiny trader. I don't know much about the tiers, but I do know a lot about. Well, I think I know a lot about markets and concepts behind the economy and markets. So I am able to apply that to shiny trading using false examples such as my Zubat one. Yeah, I mean the examples don't really matter. They're just there to prove a point.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. Sorry, if I disconnected, but yeah. Let me go ahead and reconnect, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right. So sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah, I disconnected for a little bit, but yeah. That's I'm and one more question before we leave. Rudy, so what um what did you think whenever you first heard about this new um, breeding system where they take two parents away and you keep the egg? What what were you thinking the first time when you heard about it?
Um, my first thought, I was really glad they were changing the breeding system. The old breeding system was a problem. It was extremely bad for the economy, and it was good for the comp scene. It was good for competitive battling because noobs were able to get easy Pokemon, and experienced players were able to get Pokemon pretty easily. That being said, the damage that the old breeding system was doing, in my opinion, far outweighed to the economy, far outweighed the benefits that the comp scene was seeing. So I saw that the old breeding system as being a problem. So when I found out that they were changing it for the first time, and this was before I knew what the mechanics were going to be, I was excited. I was really glad that they recognized the problem and was going to fix it. Then they came out with the mechanics and told us what they were going to be like. And at first I was like, ugh. I suggested giving us a way to keep one of our Pokemon. But then after further reading explanations from Darkshade about what this breeding system hopes to accomplish, I realized that my suggestion completely defeats the purpose of the breeding system, and I understood why they were implementing it the way it was. I believe that the goal of this breeding system is a good goal to have with a breeding system. Whether or not it will work, I don't know. It's something that has to yet to be seen. I know they want to have a Pokemon sync, which it will do, but it's just going to sync Pokemon that's been added into the market from the update. Any Pokemon that gets bred is going to be kept as comps, and that's may slowly inflate the competitive market, or it could just not do it. It could not just inflate it at such a slow rate that it's not even noticeable, like the shiny market. Um, Plus, people will always need comps. They will always need different comps, and they will always need different the same breeds for different reasons. So as long as the competitive market isn't being inflated at a faster rate than the demand is rising, then the system should be considered a success. But yeah, when they first implemented it, I was a little if first told us about it, I was a little iffy have some suggestions on it. But then after thinking about it and reading comments and such, I became much more understanding as to what the goal is, and I am totally supportive of it. I truly hope that it works for what it's supposed to do.
All right. Yeah, and that's gonna be it for our interview. Cody, thank you for attending uh our interview. Cody,
Yeah.
the
Um,
the thanks. And do you have any last comments you would like to make before we leave?
Actually, I got a few if you have time.
Oh, sure.
Um, there's this problem that people have on the forums. They're concerned with this class gap. What are the noobs gonna do? The poor rich get richer, the poor get poorer. The old players are gonna have all the advantages in the world. And I'd like to address that a little more in depth. I know we addressed it a little bit earlier, but I'd like to address it a little bit more in depth. First of all, there will always be a gap between old and new players. That's just not going to change. That's the nature of an MMO. That being said, the system being implemented in theory shouldn't make it impossible for um, for new players to get Pokemon at the level of that all players have. Their Pokemon should be able to compete in theory. Now, they're going to have to work harder than we did for the past year, which is kind of a bummer, I guess. But also, a lot of the old players have worked extremely hard. People like myself and King Bowser and JJ have worked extremely hard through things like Catch MMO and Bike MMO, and even when the flag breeding was so nerfed that it was near impossible to get a good comp. We've already put our time in, or a lot of us have already put our time in. We've put plenty of time to earn the Pokemon that we have. I think that older players have done more than enough to earn the comps that they have. Um, Now there are going to be people who just came in during Easy Breed and was able to get a free ride that way, but we digress. Another thing is everyone's complaining about 31s. As I mentioned before, and I'm just going to mention it again, you don't need 31s and everything. Um, Basically, the biggest advantage that old players will have is that our comps will rise in value. The comps that we already have will rise in value, and we will be able to sell them at a higher price. Eventually, that will all even out. Um, Simply because everyone's going to already be saying, well, I'm going to keep my comp or I'm going to sell it. And after they sell their competitive pokes, they will spend that money on money sinks, such as breeding and items. So eventually that will even out. Basically, this system isn't going to be as bad for older players as people think it is, at least not in theory. They're going to be able to get to the level that older players are, and I'm just tired of hearing about the class gap. Um, Another thing is something that I thought was going to be in this interview, but I guess you must have forgotten about or just neglected to pick up on is that gender choosing was recently added and then taken away. Um, I'm not sure if it's going to be coming back or not. I do believe that there has to be a way to somewhat determine what gender your Pokemon are going to be. Simply because, first of all, because there are a lot of Pokemon that's just impossible to get female counterparts. For them, Dittos can be used to breed, or female or male counterparts. For them, they'll be used. You use Dittos to breed them, I guess. But that then using Dittos, just like with genderless Pokemon, it's going to be harder for you to get a competitive Pokemon. And I guess if that's not going to be a problem, and then gender breeding, gender choosing can be almost completely thrown out the door. The only thing is that without gender choosing, you may have to scrap large amounts of chain breeding that you've already done. So, for example, if you've got a Pokemon with 3 times 25 plus, if that's what you're going for, and you can't choose the gender of the baby, and you get the wrong gender, you get 2 males, you get a male, and you were expecting to be able to breed it with a male, then you're going to have to start that chain all over. And so, yes, I believe that something needs to be done to enhance gender, to sort of give us a little bit more control over what gender we have are getting in our babies. But maybe perhaps the devs took it out because having complete control over which gender your Pokemon was going to be may have been too easy. And I am completely supportive of them implementing a system that is too hard and needs to be buffed later on than them implementing a system that is too easy and it needs to be nerfed later on. You've seen the backlash that the community has given to the developers due to them having to nerf breeding the way they have. And it's just way easier to buff things in any MMO than it is to nerf things. There will always be backlash if you're nerfing things, and there will always be very little backlash if you're buffing them. So anyone that's looking out breeding, just I would say wait and see what happens with the breeding system, see how hard or easy it is, and then make suggestions upon how to improve it later.
All right. Cody, thank you for attending the interview.
No problem.
Yeah, and for more of these interviews, you can comment to my channel. I'd love to hear the feedback, and you can also subscribe to my network. Yeah. Well, like I said, I would love to hear I'd love to hear your comments about our interview here. Anyway, this is the Roy Rogers news station. Signing off.